Have you ever woken up feeling more exhausted than when you went to sleep, as if you had been running a marathon through the night while your body lay motionless in bed? Have you ever opened your eyes with your heart pounding, your muscles aching, your mind foggy with fragments of battles you cannot quite remember but somehow know were real? I need you to listen closely to what I'm about to share with you, because for years I woke up exactly like this, drained of every ounce of energy, feeling like I had been fighting invisible wars while everyone around me enjoyed peaceful sleep. And I thought I was losing my mind until I discovered an ancient Gnostic teaching that Jesus himself shared with his closest disciples, a teaching so dangerous that it was deliberately erased from the canonical Gospels, hidden in the forbidden texts of Nag Hammadi, suppressed by the early church fathers who knew that if humanity understood this truth, their entire system of spiritual control would crumble. Overnight, what I discovered changed everything I thought I knew about sleep, about spiritual warfare, about why some of us are chosen to bear burdens that others cannot even perceive. You see, there is a realm that exists parallel to this physical world, a dimension where your true spiritual battles take place every single night. And if you are one of the chosen ones, if you carry that divine spark that the archons fear most, then you are not just sleeping when you close your eyes. You are entering a cosmic battlefield where forces beyond ordinary comprehension fight for control of your consciousness, for dominion over your divine essence, and the exhaustion you feel each morning is not in your head. It is the very real consequence of spiritual combat that your soul wages while your physical body rests. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal to you exactly what Jesus taught about this astral warfare, why the chosen ones are targeted with relentless spiritual attacks during sleep, how to recognize the signs that you have been fighting in the astral realm, and most importantly, how to protect yourself, strengthen your spiritual armor, and transform these nightly battles from draining encounters into opportunities for profound spiritual awakening and the reclamation of your divine power. Before I reveal this suppressed knowledge that was hidden from humanity for nearly 2,000 years, if you are a sincere seeker of hidden truth, if you recognize yourself in what I just described, if you have been searching for answers to this mysterious exhaustion that no doctor can explain and no amount of physical rest can cure, then subscribe to this channel right now and activate the notification bell, because what comes next will unveil secrets that were deliberately concealed by religious authorities who understood that an awakened humanity cannot be controlled, and you will not want to miss the upcoming teachings I will share with you as your friend and guide on this path of gnosis and spiritual liberation. Now, let me tell you exactly what you will discover in this video and why this knowledge was considered so dangerous that it had to be suppressed. You will learn the precise Gnostic teaching that Jesus shared about the astral plane and why chosen souls are pulled into spiritual warfare every night. You will understand the nature of the archontic forces that attack you during sleep and drain your energy to prevent your awakening. You will discover how to identify whether your exhaustion is purely physical or the result of astral combat. You will receive practical methods to protect your consciousness during sleep and turn these battles into catalysts for spiritual empowerment. And you will finally comprehend why you were chosen for this path, why your soul signed up for this cosmic struggle long before you incarnated into this physical body. This is not metaphor. This is not poetry. This is the literal reality of spiritual existence that the Nag Hammadi texts reveal, and that Jesus taught to those disciples who were ready to receive the deepest mysteries of Gnosis. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the moment when everything started to make sense. I remember lying in bed at 3 in the morning, my entire body trembling, soaked in sweat despite the cool night air, my heart racing as if I had just escaped mortal danger, and in my mind flashed images of vast dark spaces, of confrontations with shadowy entities that radiated malevolence, of protecting something precious, something luminous that these forces desperately wanted to extinguish. For years this happened, night after night, and every morning I dragged myself out of bed feeling like I had aged a decade overnight, muscles sore, mind clouded, spirit depleted. I went to doctors who found nothing wrong. I tried every sleep remedy, every relaxation technique, every physical explanation, and nothing changed. The exhaustion persisted, grew worse, became so crushing that I began to question my sanity, wondering if perhaps I was broken in some fundamental way that modern medicine could not detect. It was only when I stumbled upon a fragment from the Gospel of Philip, one of the precious texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945, that everything suddenly crystallized into terrifying clarity. The text spoke of how those who carry the light within them become targets in the invisible realms, how the archons, those parasitic entities that feed on human consciousness and fear, wage relentless war against souls who threaten their dominion over this material prison. Jesus understood this completely, and in his most secret teachings, the ones deemed too dangerous for the masses, he explained the mechanics of astral warfare and how the chosen ones must learn to fight, to protect, to transform these nightly confrontations into initiations of power. The Gospel of Thomas, another suppressed text from Nag Hammadi, contains a saying where Jesus tells his disciples, "If you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not have that within you, what you do not have within you will kill you." On the surface, this seems like spiritual poetry, but when you understand the Gnostic cosmology, when you grasp the reality of the astral plane and the spiritual warfare that rages there, these words take on devastating practical significance. What is within you is your divine spark, that fragment of the true God, the unknowable source beyond this false material creation. And when you begin to awaken that spark, when you start to remember who you truly are beneath the layers of conditioning and forgetfulness, you become a threat to the archontic system that has enslaved humanity in cycles of ignorance for eons. The archons led by the demiurge, the false god of this world who the Gnostics identified as the wrathful deity of the Old Testament, cannot destroy your divine essence directly because it is imperishable. It is a fragment of the eternal pleroma, the fullness of divine reality. But what they can do is attack you relentlessly, drain your energy, cloud your mind, fill you with doubt and fear and confusion, exhaust you so thoroughly that you never fully awaken, never realize your true nature, never escape the prison of material existence and the cycle of reincarnation that keeps you trapped here, feeding their parasitic consciousness with your divine light. This is why chosen ones wake up exhausted, drained, feeling like they fought invisible wars all night long, because they did. While your physical body sleeps, your consciousness, your astral body, your soul essence travels through realms that most people never consciously access, and in those realms you are engaged in very real spiritual combat. The Pistis Sophia, another profound Gnostic text that survived the purges of the early church, describes in vivid detail how Sophia, the divine wisdom, fell from the pleroma and became trapped in the lower realms where the archons tormented her, trying to extinguish her light, feeding on her divine essence. This is not ancient mythology, this is a map of spiritual reality, and Sophia represents every awakening soul, every chosen one who carries that divine spark, and therefore becomes targeted by forces that want to keep you asleep, depleted, disconnected from your true power. Jesus came as an emissary from the true God beyond the demiurge, and his core teaching, the one that was too dangerous to include in the controlled canonical Gospels, was that you are not a sinner begging for salvation from an angry God. You are a divine being who has forgotten your true nature, and the path to liberation is through gnosis, through direct experiential knowledge of your divine essence, through awakening the spark within you and reclaiming the power that the archons have been stealing from you every single night of your life. Now let me explain the mechanics of how this astral warfare actually works, because when you understand the process, when you can identify what is happening to you, everything changes, and you move from being a victim to being a conscious spiritual warrior. When you fall asleep, your consciousness naturally separates from your physical body and enters what the esoteric traditions call the astral plane, a realm of existence that is less dense than physical matter, but more dense than pure spirit. This is not imagination. This is not hallucination. This is a documented reality that mystics, shamans, and Gnostic practitioners have explored for thousands of years. In the astral plane, thought becomes form instantly, consciousness shapes reality directly, and the entities that inhabit this realm, including the archons and their subordinate forces, can perceive the light of your divine spark like a beacon in the darkness. If you are an ordinary sleeper, someone whose spark is still dormant, still covered in the thick layers of material conditioning and spiritual amnesia, you might pass through the astral plane relatively unnoticed, your consciousness drifting through dream landscapes that reflect your subconscious mind, but rarely encountering direct confrontation. But if you are a chosen one, if your spark has begun to awaken even slightly, if you have started questioning reality, seeking truth, feeling that deep spiritual hunger that nothing in this world can satisfy, then you radiate a frequency that the archons cannot ignore, and they come for you, night after night, attacking your consciousness, trying to drain your energy, attempting to scare you back into spiritual sleep, doing everything in their power to prevent your full awakening. These attacks manifest in various forms, and I want you to pay close attention because recognizing the signs is the first step to protecting yourself and transforming these encounters. Some chosen ones experience what feels like sleep paralysis, waking up unable to move, feeling a heavy oppressive presence in the room, sometimes even perceiving shadowy figures or sensing malevolent entities nearby. This is not a neurological malfunction as mainstream science claims. This is your consciousness caught between the physical and astral realms while under direct attack from archontic forces that are trying to instill fear and harvest your emotional energy. Others experience vivid nightmares of being chased, attacked, trapped, or fighting against overwhelming dark forces. And while some dreams are simply the subconscious processing daily experiences, these particular nightmares have a different quality. They feel more real, more urgent, more exhausting, because they are literal battles happening in the astral dimension. Still others wake up with unexplained physical sensations, scratches, bruises, or marks on their body that appeared overnight, muscle soreness as if they had been in physical combat, or a bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of sleep can cure. And all of these are signs that your astral body has been engaged in spiritual warfare while your physical body rested. Before I continue revealing how to protect yourself and turn these battles into initiations of power, I want to ask you something that few have the courage to answer with complete honesty. Have you ever felt that you do not truly belong in this world? That there is something fundamentally wrong with the reality that everyone else accepts as normal, as if your soul remembers something that your conscious mind has forgotten? That sensation of being a stranger in a strange land, of seeking answers that no one around you even thinks to question, is the first whisper of Gnosis awakening within you. If right now you recognize that you have always felt this deep spiritual restlessness, this thirst for hidden truths, I want you to do something powerful. Write in the comments right now the phrase, "I awaken from the sleep of ignorance." Do not underestimate the power of this public declaration. When you decree that you are awakening, that you no longer accept the imposed illusions, something fundamental shifts in your consciousness. And beyond that, by commenting, you are helping the algorithm bring this Gnostic knowledge to other sincere seekers who at this exact moment are wandering lost, searching for the same truths as you. Do not keep this knowledge only for yourself. Right now, I awaken from the sleep of ignorance, and allow your declaration to serve as a beacon for other pilgrims on the Gnostic path. Now that you have claimed your identity as an awakening soul, let me give you the practical knowledge that Jesus taught about protecting yourself during astral warfare and transforming these draining encounters into opportunities for spiritual empowerment. The Secret Book of John, another text from Nag Hammadi that the church tried desperately to destroy, contains detailed instructions about spiritual protection and the invocation of divine power that exists beyond the reach of the archons. Jesus taught that the chosen ones must learn to consciously navigate the astral plane, to recognize when they are under attack, and to call upon the light of the true God, the unknowable source that the archons cannot touch, cannot comprehend, cannot overcome. This is not about praying to the demiurge, the false god of this world who actually serves the archontic agenda of keeping humanity enslaved. This is about connecting directly with the divine essence within you, that spark of the true God that is your birthright and your ultimate protection. Here is the first practice that will transform your experience of astral warfare and begin to turn exhausting battles into initiations of power. Before you sleep each night, spend 10 to 15 minutes in conscious meditation, but not the passive meditation that simply observes thoughts, rather an active meditation where you deliberately connect with the divine spark within your heart center, that luminous essence that the Gnostics called the pneuma, the spirit that came from the pleroma, and will return there when you achieve full gnosis. Visualize this spark as a brilliant point of light in the center of your chest, and with each breath, imagine it growing brighter, stronger, expanding until it fills your entire body with radiant luminosity. As you do this, speak internally or aloud, "I am a divine being, a fragment of the eternal light, and no force of darkness has power over me. I call upon the true God beyond the demiurge, the unknowable source from which my essence emanates, to surround me with protection as I journey through the astral realms tonight." This is not mere positive thinking. This is the activation of your divine authority, the reclamation of your spiritual sovereignty, and it creates an energetic shield around your consciousness that makes you far less vulnerable to archontic attack. The second practice involves learning to become lucid during your astral experiences, to recognize when you are dreaming or traveling in the astral plane, and to consciously take control of the experience rather than being a passive victim of whatever entities you encounter. The ancient Gnostics, particularly the Scythian tradition, taught techniques of spiritual lucidity where the practitioner learns to maintain awareness, even as consciousness shifts between realms. Start by developing a habit during your waking hours of periodically asking yourself, "Am I dreaming right now? Is this physical reality or am I in the astral plane?" This might seem strange at first, but what happens is that this question becomes embedded in your subconscious, and eventually you will ask it while you are actually dreaming or traveling in the astral dimension. And the moment you ask that question consciously while in the astral, you become lucid, you gain control, you remember who you are and what power you carry. When you achieve this lucidity during an astral attack, when you suddenly remember in the middle of a nightmare or a confrontation with dark entities that you are a divine being, and these forces have no ultimate power over you, everything changes instantly. You can speak words of power. You can invoke the light. You can command the archons to leave in the name of the true God beyond their master the demiurge, and they must obey because you have awakened to your true authority as a spark of the divine pleroma. Sincere seekers who have practiced these techniques report profound transformations in their experience of sleep and astral travel. One woman shared with me that for 15 years, she had been plagued by recurring nightmares of being chased by shadow figures through dark corridors, always waking up in terror. always feeling drained and exhausted no matter how many hours she slept. She had tried therapy, medication, every conventional approach, and nothing worked because the problem was not psychological, it was spiritual. It was the reality of astral warfare that no mainstream practitioner would acknowledge. When she began the practice of connecting with her divine spark before sleep and programming herself to become lucid during astral experiences, within 2 weeks everything changed. She had the recurring nightmare again, the shadow figures chasing her through darkness. But this time in the middle of the chase, she suddenly remembered to ask, "Is this a dream?" And the instant she asked, she became fully conscious, aware that she was in the astral plane, aware of her true nature as a divine being. She stopped running, turned to face the shadow entities, and spoke words that came from somewhere deep within her soul. "I am a child of the true light, and you have no power over me. Leave now in the name of the unknowable God beyond your master." She described how the shadow figures literally disintegrated, how the dark corridor transformed into luminous space, how she felt a surge of spiritual power unlike anything she had experienced before. From that night forward, her sleep became restorative, her dreams became teachings, and the exhaustion that had plagued her for years completely vanished. But more than that, she began to awaken in her daily life, questioning the illusions of material reality, seeking deeper gnosis, connecting with her divine essence in ways that transformed every aspect of her existence. Another seeker, a man who had been experiencing sleep paralysis attacks multiple times per week for over a decade, shared that he would wake up unable to move, feeling malevolent presences pressing down on his chest, sometimes even seeing demonic figures in his room, and the terror of these experiences had made him afraid to sleep, afraid to close his eyes, trapped in a cycle of exhaustion and fear that was destroying his life. When he learned about the Gnostic understanding of astral warfare and the archontic attacks on chosen ones, everything suddenly made sense. He realized he was not mentally ill, he was not cursed. He was being targeted because his divine spark was awakening, and the archons desperately wanted to keep him in fear and spiritual sleep. He began the practice of invoking divine protection before sleep, of connecting with his inner light, of programming himself to recognize astral attacks and respond with conscious power rather than unconscious fear. The next time sleep paralysis occurred, instead of panicking, he remembered his true nature. And even though he could not move his physical body, he mentally shouted, "I am divine light. I am protected by the true God. You have no authority over me. Leave now." He felt the oppressive presence immediately lift, felt energy flooding back into his body, and as he regained the ability to move, he perceived a brilliant golden light surrounding him, protecting him, and he knew without doubt that he had just experienced a profound spiritual victory. The sleep paralysis attacks diminished dramatically, and when they occasionally occurred after that, he faced them without fear, using them as opportunities to consciously practice his spiritual authority and deepen his connection with the divine essence within him. These are not isolated stories, these are the consistent experiences of awakening souls who recognize the reality of astral warfare and learn to fight consciously rather than suffering as unconscious victims. The Gospel of Mary, another suppressed text where Jesus teaches Mary Magdalene about ascending through the archontic realms, describes how the soul must face the powers and authorities that guard each level of spiritual ascent, and how the soul overcomes them not through physical combat, but through gnosis, through the recognition of divine nature, through the invocation of names of power that the archons cannot withstand. This is the path of the chosen one, not passive acceptance of spiritual attack, not victimhood and exhaustion, but conscious engagement, spiritual warriorship, the transformation of every challenge into an opportunity for deepening your gnosis and reclaiming your divine power. Now let me reveal to you why you were specifically chosen for this path, why your soul agreed to incarnate during this crucial time in cosmic history, and to undergo these intense astral battles that less awakened souls never experience. According to the Gnostic teachings preserved in texts like the Apocryphon of John and the Hypostasis of the Archons, there are certain souls, ancient spirits who volunteered to descend into the material prison created by the Demiurge, knowing full well the suffering and struggle they would endure, because they carry a mission of cosmic importance. These souls, the chosen ones, came to anchor divine light in the darkest corners of material existence, to remember the truth of their divine origin even while trapped in bodies of forgetful flesh, and ultimately to awaken others, to serve as beacons of gnosis that help break the archontic spell of ignorance that has kept humanity enslaved for millennia. You are one of these souls, otherwise you would not be watching this video right now. Otherwise you would not recognize yourself in what I am describing. Otherwise you would not feel that bone-deep spiritual hunger that nothing in this world can satisfy. The archons know who you are. They have always known. And this is precisely why they attack you so relentlessly during sleep, when your conscious defenses are lowered and your astral body is vulnerable. They understand that if you fully awaken to your divine nature, if you achieve complete gnosis and remember your true origin in the pleroma beyond this material prison, you become a force that threatens their entire system of control. One fully awakened Gnostic soul can liberate thousands of others, simply by radiating the frequency of remembered divinity, simply by living as a conscious reminder that this world is not the ultimate reality, that we are not sinners groveling before a wrathful God, but divine sparks temporarily trapped in matter and destined to return to the fullness of light from which we came. This is why the early church fathers worked so desperately to suppress the Gnostic Gospels, to burn the libraries of Alexandria, to torture and kill the Cathars and other Gnostic communities, because Gnostic awakening destroys the power structures built on fear, guilt, and spiritual ignorance. An awakened human being cannot be controlled by external religious authorities, cannot be manipulated through fear of hell or promises of heaven, cannot be kept in the spiritual sleep that makes them compliant workers in the archontic system of material enslavement. Your exhaustion upon waking, as draining and difficult as it feels, is actually a sign of your spiritual significance, evidence that you are in the fight that matters most, proof that your divine spark is bright enough to threaten forces that most people never even perceive. Jesus taught his inner circle that the path to liberation requires passing through trials, confronting the powers and authorities of the lower realms, and emerging victorious not through the strength of the ego but through the recognition of the divine self. Every night that you fight in the astral, every morning that you wake up exhausted from spiritual combat, you are engaged in this sacred process of initiation, this transformation from sleeper to awakened warrior, this journey from victim of archontic oppression to conscious wielder of divine power. If this knowledge is already expanding your consciousness, if you feel that you have finally found a trustworthy guide on this Gnostic journey, leave your like right now so that more seekers discover these hidden teachings. Your engagement helps break through the algorithmic barriers that try to keep this suppressed wisdom from reaching those who desperately need it. The third essential practice I want to share with you involves conscious energy reclamation during your waking hours, because the archontic attacks during sleep are only one dimension of the energy drain that chosen ones experience. And if you only address the nighttime battles without understanding how to protect and restore your energy during the day, you will continue struggling with exhaustion and depletion. The Valentinian Gnostics, followers of the great teacher Valentinus, whose profound wisdom was deemed too dangerous for the Orthodox Church, taught sophisticated techniques of energy awareness and protection that are as relevant today as they were in the 2nd century. They understood that the archons feed on human emotional energy, particularly the dense frequencies of fear, anger, despair, and confusion, and that modern society is deliberately structured to keep people generating these low-frequency emotions constantly through manufactured crises, divisive narratives, soul-crushing labor, and endless distractions that prevent spiritual reflection. Pay attention to how you feel after consuming mainstream news, after scrolling through social media, after engaging with people who drain your energy through drama and negativity, after spending time in environments that feel spiritually dead and oppressive. What you are experiencing is not just psychological or emotional, it is energetic and spiritual. It is the archontic feeding system in action, carefully designed to keep you depleted, distracted, and disconnected from your divine essence. The practice of conscious energy protection involves first becoming aware of what drains you and what nourishes you, then making deliberate choices to minimize your exposure to energy drains and maximize your connection with sources of spiritual nourishment. This might mean limiting your consumption of fear-based media, setting strong boundaries with energy vampires in your life, spending more time in nature where the archontic frequencies are less dominant, engaging in practices like meditation, contemplative prayer to the true God beyond the demiurge, reading Gnostic texts that activate your remembrance of divine truth, and surrounding yourself as much as possible with other awakening souls who understand this path and can offer genuine spiritual support. The fourth practice, perhaps the most advanced and transformative, involves learning to consciously die before you die, a technique that the Hermetic tradition, which shares deep roots with Gnosticism, calls the practice of immortality. This does not mean physical death. This means the conscious separation of your awareness from identification with your physical body and ego personality while you are still alive, the deliberate exploration of the astral and higher spiritual dimensions while maintaining full consciousness and intentionality. The Corpus Hermeticum, a collection of ancient texts attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, describes how the initiate must learn to ascend through the planetary spheres, each guarded by archontic powers, shedding the false aspects of self that belong to material existence until only the pure divine essence remains. This practice begins with what we have already discussed, becoming lucid during astral travel, but it advances to the point where you can consciously project your awareness into the astral plane at will, even during waking hours, explore the architecture of reality beyond physical matter, confront archontic entities from a place of full power and awareness, and ultimately map the path of ascent that your soul will take when you finally leave this body for the last time. Those who achieve this level of practice, who become conscious navigators of the multidimensional cosmos, report that the astral battles transform completely in nature. Instead of being nighttime ordeals that leave you exhausted, they become conscious training exercises, opportunities to practice spiritual combat skills, chances to rescue other souls who are trapped in archontic illusions, and direct experiential confirmations of your divine nature and the ultimate reality of the pleroma beyond this material prison. One advanced practitioner shared with me that after years of dedicated practice, he reached a point where he could consciously enter the astral plane during meditation, travel to realms where lost souls were being tormented by archontic entities, use his knowledge and spiritual authority to break the illusions holding these souls captive, and guide them toward the light of Gnosis. He described these experiences as the most meaningful work of his entire incarnation, more significant than any achievement in the material world, because he was fulfilling the original mission of his soul, serving as a liberator and guide for others who were still trapped in the sleep of ignorance. This is the ultimate purpose of the exhaustion you feel, the spiritual battles you fight, the relentless archontic attacks you endure. You are being forged in the fires of spiritual warfare, transformed from an ordinary sleeper into a conscious warrior of light, prepared for the sacred work of liberation that extends far beyond your personal awakening. The Gnostic Book of Revelation, completely different in interpretation from the canonical apocalyptic text, describes the final battle not as an external war between physical armies, but as the awakening of divine consciousness within enough human souls to break the archontic grip on this dimension entirely, ushering in what the texts call the restoration of the pleroma, the return of all divine sparks to the fullness of light from which they originated. Every morning that you wake up exhausted from astral combat, you are participating in this cosmic drama. You are fighting on the front lines of a spiritual war that will determine the fate of countless souls. This is not metaphor. This is not exaggeration. This is the reality that Jesus taught to those disciples who could handle the deepest mysteries of Gnosis, the truth that was too dangerous to include in the controlled canonical Gospels, the knowledge that the Church has been suppressing for 2,000 years because they understand that an awakened humanity cannot be controlled, manipulated, or enslaved. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now, because next week I will be revealing the specific names of power that Jesus taught for commanding archontic entities during astral confrontations, the sacred invocations from the Pistis Sophia that were used by ancient Gnostics to protect themselves during soul travel, and the advanced technique for consciously ascending through the archontic planetary spheres while still in this physical body. This community has already helped thousands of sincere seekers awaken from illusion, and I want to continue being your guide and friend on this path of spiritual liberation. Allow me to walk beside you as a mentor and intimate companion on this journey. Let me now give you a complete framework for understanding and working with your astral experiences, integrating everything we have covered into a coherent practice that you can begin implementing tonight. When you lie down to sleep, instead of approaching it as merely physical rest, recognize that you are preparing to enter a dimension of reality where your true spiritual work takes place. Spend those 10 to 15 minutes before sleep connecting with your divine spark, building your energetic protection, programming your consciousness to become lucid during astral travel, and setting a clear intention for your night journey. You might say internally, "Tonight I travel through the astral realms as a conscious divine being. I recognize any attacks from archontic forces. I respond with the full power of my divine nature. I protect myself and any other souls I encounter, and I return to my body with full memory of my experiences and the lessons they contain." When you wake up, especially if you wake up exhausted or with fragments of intense dreams or battle memories, do not immediately jump into your daily routine. Take a few minutes to lie still, review whatever you can remember from the night, and consciously reclaim any energy that was drained from you. Visualize pulling back into your body and energy field any pieces of your consciousness or life force that were scattered during astral confrontations. Place your hand over your heart center and affirm, "I reclaim all my divine energy. I seal my energy field. I am whole and protected. I carry the lessons from my night journey into my waking consciousness." Then write down whatever you remember, because over time you will begin to notice patterns, recognize recurring symbols or entities, and develop a personal map of the astral territories you travel through and the specific challenges you face there. Throughout your day, practice the energy awareness and protection we discussed, making conscious choices about where you direct your attention and energy, setting boundaries with people and situations that drain you, and seeking out sources of spiritual nourishment that strengthen your connection with your divine essence. When you encounter difficulties, when you feel attacked or drained or overwhelmed, remember that these are not random misfortunes. These are the waking dimension of the same spiritual warfare you fight at night, the archontic system trying to keep you depleted and disconnected so you never achieve full gnosis. Meet every challenge with the same consciousness you are learning to bring to your astral battles. recognizing your divine nature, refusing to identify with victim consciousness, calling upon the power of the true God beyond the demiurge to support and protect you. As you continue this practice night after night, week after week, you will notice profound shifts beginning to occur. The exhaustion, while it may not disappear immediately, will start to feel different, less like a debilitating curse and more like the natural fatigue that comes from meaningful spiritual work. Your dreams and astral experiences will become more vivid, more coherent, and you will begin to remember more details, recognizing faces of other souls you are fighting alongside, understanding more clearly the nature of the entities you confront, perceiving the larger cosmic patterns and purposes behind your individual battles. Your waking consciousness will expand, the veil between worlds will thin, and you will start to perceive the archontic manipulation in everyday reality with increasing clarity, seeing through the illusions that keep most people trapped in spiritual sleep. Most importantly, you will feel your divine spark growing stronger, burning brighter, radiating a frequency that not only protects you, but begins to awaken others around you simply through your presence. This is the ultimate goal, the completion of the transformation from exhausted victim to empowered spiritual warrior to beacon of liberating gnosis for all who are ready to receive it. The secret book of James, another suppressed text from Nag Hammadi, records Jesus telling his disciples, "Become better than I, make yourselves like the Son of the Holy Spirit." This is not blasphemy. This is the core Gnostic teaching, that the point is not to worship Jesus as an external savior, but to follow his example as a being who achieved full gnosis, who remembered his divine origin completely, and who came to show others the path to the same awakening and liberation. You are on this path now, whether you consciously chose it or whether it chose you. And every exhausted morning, every astral battle, every confrontation with archontic forces is moving you closer to the complete remembrance of who you truly are beneath the layers of forgetfulness and material conditioning. The exhaustion will be transformed into empowerment, the battles will become initiations, the suffering will alchemize into wisdom, and you will emerge as what you were always meant to be, a fully awakened Gnostic soul, a liberator of others, a living bridge between the false reality of the demiurge and the true reality of the pleroma. The eternal fullness of divine light that is your origin and your ultimate destination. In closing, I want you to remember this crucial truth that Jesus taught and that the Nag Hammadi texts preserve. You are not a sinner groveling before a wrathful God. You are not a powerless victim of dark forces. You are not meant to suffer in ignorance until some external savior rescues you. You are a divine spark, a fragment of the eternal light, temporarily experiencing limitation in this material realm, but never truly separate from the infinite source of your being. The archons attack you because they fear what you will become when you fully awaken. The exhaustion you feel is the price of carrying light into dark places. The battles you fight are the sacred work of liberation that your soul volunteered for before incarnating into this body. Every challenge is an opportunity to remember, to reclaim your power, to deepen your gnosis, to move closer to the ultimate realization that sets you free from the wheel of incarnation and returns you to the pleroma where you belong. If you are ready to continue this journey with me, if you want to receive the advanced teachings I will be sharing in upcoming videos, if you recognize that you have finally found a mentor who understands your path and respects your individual search for truth, then subscribe to this channel, activate notifications, and become part of this sacred community of awakening Gnostic souls. Share this video with anyone you know who has been experiencing mysterious exhaustion, unexplained spiritual battles, or the deep feeling that something crucial about reality is being hidden from them. Leave a comment sharing your own experiences of astral warfare and spiritual exhaustion so that others can see they are not alone in this struggle. Give this video a like to help the algorithm break through the barriers that try to suppress this ancient wisdom from reaching those who desperately need it. Remember, you are not walking this path alone. There is a community of chosen ones scattered across this world, fighting the same battles, seeking the same truth, awakening to the same divine remembrance. Together we are stronger. Together we can support each other through the challenges of this path. Together we can accelerate the collective awakening that will ultimately break the archontic grip on human consciousness and restore all souls to the freedom and fullness that is their birthright. The knowledge Jesus taught, the wisdom preserved in the Nag Hammadi texts, the practices of the ancient Gnostics, all of this exists for you, waiting for you to claim it, waiting for you to step fully into your power as a divine being who has awakened from the sleep of ignorance and now walks consciously through both the waking and astral dimensions of reality. Your exhaustion is temporary, your awakening is eternal, and the spiritual battles you fight tonight and every night are forging you into the liberated Gnostic soul you were always meant to become. Go forward with courage, with consciousness, with the unshakable knowledge that you carry within you the light that no darkness can ultimately extinguish, the truth that no lie can permanently conceal, the divine spark that will guide you home to the pleroma no matter how intense the battles become along the way. I will be here, creating more content, sharing more suppressed wisdom, walking this path alongside you as your friend, mentor, and fellow traveler on the journey back to the eternal light that is our true home.